Thanks, Chair. I just want to make a couple of brief questions, and if I'm brief, I'd like the Minister brief so I can come back in and ask a few more.
At the end,
I think it's very strange that, given, unlike GSOC, the Garda Commissioner actually is solely accountable to the Minister, that you didn't deem it appropriate to ask him to account for his actions over the course of the past 2 weeks or so. You mentioned that the review which you've initiated will be fully cooperated with by GSOC and the security companies and so on. Can I ask you, are you going to cooperate with it, and is the Garda Commissioner going to cooperate with it, and why it wasn't formed on the basis of being a actual fully judicial in its bearings, if you like, that having the power of compellability rather than just being allowed to ask, as you indicated previously. With regard to the issue of surveillance and authorised surveillance, you responded to Deputy Healy-Rae that you hadn't instructed any surveillance of GSOC. I want you to categorically and unequivocally give an assurance that nobody in the Gardaí, the Defence Forces or Revenue, who are the authorised agencies for this, carried out any surveillance on GSOC. And would you not agree that it does stretch credibility somewhat that the Garda Commissioner was able to make a statement, which you've verified, you didn't challenge him about, saying that there was no basis to any Garda being involved in any surveillance whatsoever? And on what basis are you putting that opinion? Because, you see, I would contend that from the very beginning you have sought to minimise and trivialise these issues. I think you've misrepresented the view of GSOC on multiple occasions throughout this afternoon. You repeatedly say that they gave no evidence of Garda misconduct, and that is absolutely correct. But that is an entirely different matter from exonerating the Gardaí, or from saying, which you said inaccurately, that Kieran Fitzgerald said on prime time that they found nothing. They said no such thing, and Veramis said no such thing. In actual fact, what was said was that on one of the anomalies, which you have, and I'm reminded of the Commissioner talking about so-called whistleblowers, because you talked about today so-called vulnerabilities, you talked about feelings. There was evidence to substantiate a potential breach of security on the offices of the Garda watchdog. One incident was described as being, the chances of it being benign as being close to zero. And in actual fact, there's a very valid analysis of that to say that on detection, that device ceased to exist or whatever. That's a plausible explanation of it. Points have been made about the Wi-Fi. You have sort of in a flippant way talked about, there's no evidence of people drinking coffee. This might spying on GSOC. Nobody said there was. You've missed the point. The issue is that a passport-protected, secure GSOC network was capable of connecting. That's the issue, not what it was connecting to, and you seem to say there's nothing there. Could you explain some of those anomalies?
There's a number of questions in there, and we'll come back again, Deputy.
Yes, the Wi-Fi system was obviously capable of connecting, because it did. But that didn't indicate that GSOC was under surveillance, and it's quite clear from the conclusion of Veramis that GSOC wasn't under surveillance in the context of the Wi-Fi issue. No?
The company RITS, they have ruled out or explained to you an alternative rationale for all three threats as presented to our committee.
They have, but the issue of the Wi-Fi is the Veramis.
All three?
Yes.
So just to go through them, the first one is the Wi-Fi, the second is the telephone conference call.
The Wi-Fi,
okay.
No, the Wi-Fi at the end of the day.
Okay. Let me finish. Minister, with respect, I'm the Chairman, Minister. Let me finish, okay? So let's go through the three threats, right? The first one is the Wi-Fi issue. The second is the conference call issue. So let's go through those two first. So you're saying that you've been advised by RITS that all three threats that were there, and the third one, sorry, is the IMSI technology. So the first one, sorry, we'll go through it again. The first one is the Wi-Fi. The second is the conference call, which was reported as being close to zero, but that would be a coincidence. And the third one is the IMSI technology. You're reporting to our committee that in all three threats, this company RITS has given you an alternative scenario. Is that your testimony?
They've given different explanations, and Veramis itself has said that the Wi-Fi, quote, was an anomaly, unquote, and not an issue of surveillance. and I can't put it any more simpler than that.
On all three?
That's
On all
what-
three?
That's
All three?
Concerned by GSOC in their
Now,
briefing to you.
Okay, go on, sorry, so just to clarify, Minister, I'm sorry, if I've missed your answer, I apologise.
Yet again, writs have given a different explanation to Verimus for all three.
For all three? Okay, no, I appreciate that, Minister. That wasn't clear from your testimony earlier.
If I could come back to Deputy Daly. Deputy Daly has given us what she understands to be what was said by Kieran Fitzgerald. And I'm sorry, Chairman, but at this point, I started off on this. I'm going to conclude on this. Kieran Fitzgerald said, because the reason we said, he was asked, in your statement last night, you said there was no evidence of Garda misconduct. Why would you say that in the first place if you weren't thinking that? Answer by Kieran Fitzgerald, because the reason we said that last night, and I'm happy to repeat it here now, is that as part of the public discussion in Dáil Éireann this evening, and all over the airwaves the last couple of days, people are pointing the fingers, and may I say it is unfair of people to point fingers at the Garda Síochána on the basis of anything we've said or done. Miriam O'Callaghan, but your statement last night did that. No, it was the reply, our statement last night was meant to try and clear that up and say we did not find evidence of Garda misconduct because the public discourse seems to be pointing in the direction of finding the guards guilty of this thing, when we are saying quite clearly and categorically and in no uncertain terms, we found no evidence to point to that direction, and for people to suggest that, you know, they were up to something, were the people that did the examination, were the people with the evidence. We do not have any evidence to point in that direction. That isn't me. That is Kieran Fitzgerald. He's a member of GSOC. We're finishing, Chairman, and I think Deputy Daly is the last person questioning. I know she may want to come back to me again.
There will be
But we are finishing
a short period for clarifications.
we are finishing exactly from the point where we started, which is why it is a very good idea that a High Court judge looks at this, because it seems it doesn't even matter what GSOC say about this issue.
Okay.
Those who are saying they're defending GSOC are constantly discounting GSOC's own conclusions.
Minister, can I ask you a question?
That is a particular problem.
Okay. Minister, can I ask you a question?